Is the new rank system already broken, or are we just missing something here? I'm not sure yet, but what I do know is Pro Player Energy Sweet Dream solo queued to Predator from Platinum with no kills and no damage within the first 48 hours of the season dropping. So in this video, I want to further elaborate on how the rank system is playing out. I want to give you some tips on how to navigate it so that you can rank up faster, and I'll also share my thoughts on the system so far. So as we know, placement is everything. And if you are top 10, you are gaining. We knew that though going into the season once they released the blog post. But what I think is surprising people though is how little you have on the line to lose. NRG Sweet was able to get top 10 nearly every game because a lot of the other teams just continued to int one another, further solidifying his chances of reaching a top 10 or even higher. However, if every team shifts their perspective and stops this and starts to strive for a top 10 placement, you can quickly see how games will become very sweaty as the zones get smaller and smaller. The system so far seems to be very low risk, but very high reward, or at least somewhat high reward. Players can take chances on inting more teams to facilitate elimination bonuses, or will their way to better placement, and possibly get the other two bonuses that the system offers. But if they lose, it's only a max loss of 35 ladder points, and that's regardless of what rank they're in. Now I gotta pause for a second because I know a lot of people are gonna get their pitchforks out and be like, dude, why do creators always complain? But I'm actually not complaining here. I'm explaining how the system works and sort of speculating on how I think it'll play out if there are no changes made. So far, although I've only played about 20 ranked matches or so, I've actually had a lot of fun. More fun than the previous system for sure. Now I'll explain why in a second, but back to the current state. A lot of people are wondering, will Apex change something with ranked? And in the past, Apex hasn't ever hot patched anything to do with the ranked system. The quickest change they ever made was when Season 13's Ranked Reloaded came out and they changed some of the buy-ins halfway through that season. I would also guess because they spent so much time on reworking this rank system, they're gonna let it play out some more. And also guys, it's really important to keep in mind, it is hard to make all parties happy when it comes to making changes in rank. The Predators and Masters want something different from a lot of the casual players, and the people in between that may want something a bit different too. It seems though, Apex did try to look at this from more of a one-size-fits-all approach. I mean, all the buy-ins are the same, and no matter what rank you're in, a top 10 placement guarantees some form of you going positive in that match. Now there is this hidden matchmaking rating that is supposed to put you where the game thinks you are in terms of skill, but I don't know if I have enough data on this to say if it's working correctly or not. We also don't really know how exactly it's supposed to work. I know that after my 10 provisional matches, I was placed in Silver 1. After 3 more games, I was already into Gold 3. Now I've heard some crazy anecdotes about pro players getting placed into Silver and Gold, and that is sort of troubling for me to hear, because unless Gold is the new Platinum, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially when you factor in the fact that there is a hidden MMR that has taken into account your previous ranks and stats. One thing that I have found confusing is that there is no display of ranked badges on your teammates or on your enemies. It looks like it's a public match in that regard. This really surprised me when me and my friends died to the pro team 100 Thieves in a ranked match, and me and my friend were still in our provisional matches and our third friend was in bronze. Now they did say this in the blog post, and I quote, "While matchmaking prioritizes creating matches with similar party builds, meaning solos versus solos, duo plus solo versus duos plus solos, etc., it's not always going to be feasible to find 60 players of similar skill and party size within a reasonable amount of time. Inevitably, parties of different sizes and skills will be mixed together. But to account for the competitive advantage gained as a pre-made squad, pre-made duos and trios effectively have small advantages that are added to their team's MMR during matchmaking. This way, the intensity and fairness of your experience will remain relatively the same whether you're playing as a solo, duo, or trio." Now, I also wasn't sure if provisional matches would be their own lobby, or would they be merged with players who have already placed in their respective ranks. I think this matters because they also said during your 10 provisional matches that losses are fully mitigated and gains are significantly magnified. So if the lobbies are mixed, you can see how there's two very different motivations at hand, because a portion of the players in the lobby literally can't lose no matter what happens, but whatever they do gain is amplified, meaning they are more incentivized to run it down and try to fight everyone and everything. And I view this as fairly problematic. Okay, moving on to some of the tips that I think are going to be helpful if your goal is to strictly rank up as quick as possible. And no, these aren't tips that are going to be just rat your way to top 10, because first off, that's not always going to be possible, but also I already know most people who care about ranked won't try to do that to try to prove a point. They want to feel like they're actually playing the game and they're going to want to compete. So some strategies that I've used have been try to land ran uncontested. This seemed very easy to do, even on Kings Canyon. If you are uncontested, but you noticed that the POI next to you had 2 teams and they're going to fight, well, obviously you can go look at third partying that or fight them straight up shortly after they finish that fight. Theoretically, they won't have a ton of loot and they may not even be expecting you. That is, of course, if you and your team feel comfortable with your own loot. Now, it's not necessary to do, but at times it may be. And remember, every time you go and eliminate a team, you're getting one step closer to that top 10 placement. And I do have a feeling as this rank system plays out, people are going to be more and more aware of that. So looking for early third-party opportunities can often be an edge that you want to take advantage of. Now, I should pause and mention who I think are the best legends to play in ranked this season, but given how some of you reacted to my tier list, it's clear there's several differing opinions here. Anyways, here's who I recommend. I like to think more about this in terms of the legend class as opposed to necessarily a specific legend, but I definitely think having a controller legend, a skirmisher, and either a recon or a support legend is what works best for me. Typically, my friend would run Valkyrie and or Wraith, but I think Valkyrie might be better. It all depends on how early you're going to rotate or if you're going to rotate late and play the edge of zone. Obviously, the 2 best recon legends in my opinion are Seer and Bloodhound. I know Crypto and Vantage, there's a few people out there who play them, but they are not going to be meta by any means. So Seer and Bloodhound continue to be top tier picks, and they constantly reveal enemies actively during a fight while still maintaining the ability to use their guns and not screw up their teammates. One thing that's key about having recon legends is the ability to scan those beacons. Knowing when and where to take a fight or to avoid a fight is crucial. Even if you're not looking to fight, what sort of rotation should you make according to where people are on the map? I think this is huge, especially because I'm banking on more people trying to get that top 10 placement. So they're not going to be looking to take early fights. At least I don't think. I could be wrong. Maybe this video plays out and I'm totally wrong about this and everybody just continues to fight one another and push everything. However, knowing where to go or where to avoid is crucial, and these recon legends give you that. A controller legend is super crucial if you find yourself in zone and trying to control/hold down an area. It's really difficult to do this in a building without one of these legends like Catalyst, Rampart, Caustic, or Watson. Personally, I think Caustic, Watson, or Catalyst are my top picks here, but it'll come down to the player and how good they are with those legends. If a player is really good with Rampart and not good with Caustic or Watson, obviously you have your answer there. But for me, I played a lot of Caustic. Now, you could go the support role, but you'd have to figure out which sort of legend you want to sub out. And that's where things will become more nuanced. Having a legend like Lifeline, Loba, even Gibby or Newcastle can be key, but you want to make sure that these legends are being used to their full potential. If you're missing out on, say, the recon ability or the ability to control and hold down an area in a trade-off to have a Loba so that you can gather loot, well, that can work for some teams, but it comes down to playstyle. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to be solo queuing, so one thing to keep in mind is who are your teammates picking? If they get to pick before you, you should base your pick sort of off of that team comp. If you're dead set on picking whatever legend you want to pick, then yeah, I'm not going to stop you. But if you're trying to be a great team player and flexible, then I recommend doing what I just suggested. Loba and Lifeline are going to be my top picks for the support class. Then I would go Gibby and Newcastle in that order. Now, there is a case to be made for not necessarily having a skirmisher class because of the addition of the evac towers. But once again, this will come down to what your squad decides is best. I found having a Valkyrie was still really helpful, or even Wraith's Portal in some instances, making those micro rotations from one area to another, one building to another. Evac towers are not always going to be possible to get off. I know a lot of people think that Valk is completely useless with the addition of evac towers, and that's not true. The higher you rank up, the more teams are going to be aware of, hey, there's an evac tower, there's the sound, there's it popping up, we can shoot that down, and it doesn't take much if every player on your team is firing at that thing. So keep this in mind. Okay, back on how to play it. Once you get your team comp down, as soon as the zone sets, pay attention to how far you have to go in order to get into it. Sometimes you'll be forced to play edge, but if you can, it's always better to find a spot within that circle and hold down a certain area. Sometimes the zone will be set right where you landed, which will be great, but other times you'll have to travel halfway across the map just to get in, and this is where things will get dicey. Regardless, learning the zones is a skill and will take some time, but the sooner you start paying attention to them, the better off you will be as you climb the ranks. Now, I really think, actually, no, I know this. A lot of teams won't focus on this. They will late rotate. They will be forced to take bad fights as a result, and then more bad things will happen from that. Don't believe me? Go and scan a recon beacon fairly early on in the match and see how many teams are on the outskirts. Listen, if you just focus on zone and hold a solid area within it, you have furthermore solidified your chances of getting a higher placement, but you'll also not be forced to take bad fights unless the zone winds up pulling further away from you from where you're holding, which sometimes will happen, but it's the name of the game here. You got to learn to play areas and focus on positioning in order to climb the higher ranks. Now, you obviously still want to look for advantageous fights. This will require discretion though, but once 50% of the lobby is gone or close to it, there's obviously less teams to get involved, but you're sort of playing with house money at that point. You can take some more calculated risks to get closer to that win while also securing some elimination bonuses. And this is where gains can really be amplified. I strongly recommend trying to find a team this season because nothing is going to be worse than solo queuing and have a huge differing of opinions or play style when it comes to your ladder points. If you get a random teammate that wants to push every single fight, but you're more focused on zone and placement, things are not going to go well. But if you can get some like-minded players and focus on the play style that you want to adapt, then your ranked experience will not only become that much easier, but it will also become more fun. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below regarding the ranked changes, and if you're interested, check out this tier list video next. Thanks for watching. Peace.